Today, investigators are returning to the home of Rex Heuermann, the suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders. Monday, police served a search warrant at Heuermann's home in New York, and sources tell News Nation they could be there for several more days. We have seen the medical examiner on site as well, large evidence bags being removed from the home. It's not clear yet what prompted this search. Heuermann is charged in the deaths of 4 women whose bodies were found along Gilgo Beach in Long Island. Karen Conti, a trial attorney and author of the new book, Killing Time with John Wayne Gacy, joins us now to talk more about the case. Good morning, and thank you, as always, for joining us. Is it unusual to have multiple searches, a second search warrant in a case like this, especially since the first one destroyed the house, seemed so thorough?
Yeah, it is unusual. And my guess is that there's new evidence somewhere. And we know that there were other investigations done in different areas of this property. And so perhaps, and there was a rumor that there was a lockbox found on a search that the police conducted. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, perhaps whatever was in that lockbox relates to something that might be in the house. My other theory is, and again, this is speculation, is could it be that the wife who is visiting with Heuermann on a weekly basis in prison could have brought other items into the house post investigation, the last time they did the search. So maybe there's new stuff in the house now that the police suspect might be related to additional crimes.
According to a source with knowledge of what's going on, Heuermann's family was in possession of a gruesome book of crime scene photos. What might that mean for the case? How significant could it be?
Well, this is a circumstantial case. That's not to say that there's not a lot of evidence here, but I think the prosecutors really want to tie everything together. Remember, we had that evidence of DNA on a piece of pizza that tied to something at a crime scene, and then the wife's hair was found at the crime scene. So we have all of these things, and he was doing searches on his phone, and we have burner phones that are being tied to where he was during these crimes. So every piece of evidence here is going to be crucial because we don't have a confession and we don't have any eyewitnesses. And as we recall, a lot of time has transpired since these women went missing and were found.
At some point, Karen, the medical examiner was called in. We saw that in the last 24 hours. Anything to conclude from that?
It's not necessarily the case that there might be bodies in the house, but we don't know that, of course. The medical examiner has to consider all pieces of evidence when making his or her opinion about what was the cause of death. So not only is the forensics important, the DNA and obviously the body, but ballistics and how the house was found in different reports and photographs. So an important case like this, of this magnitude, it does not surprise me that the medical examiner was called just to make sure that they were able to really look at that crime scene and look at it with their own eyes.
The wife was not there. She does currently live in the house. The adult children also come and go. Was that intentional, that she was not there at the time?
My guess is that it is, because at this point she has her own counsel. And my guess is that the prosecutors called up her lawyer and said, listen, we're going to come in again. You know, this house is probably going to be not livable when we're done. And we don't want to inconvenience you any more than we have. And so she probably decided to go elsewhere with her children and allow the police to do what they are going to do.
How might the defense be preparing for this case, given the second search warrant and the evidence that appears to be building against their client?
Well, this is a tough one. I think, you know, the defense is going to, first of all, see what all the evidence is, and they're entitled to that. And the prosecution has to not only give them that evidence, but any evidence that's exculpatory, meaning that leans away from Heuermann as being the perpetrator. I think the defense is going to have to hire a bunch of experts here, a bunch of experts in DNA about all these issues, because they're going to have to methodically counter the idea that the prosecution is going to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt.
Karen, you represented serial killer John Wayne Gacy and have consistently said that the Heuermann and the Gacy case have many similarities. What's your observation, and what are the links that you have been able to draw?
Yeah, it's really kind of eerie to me. I mean, Gacy was in construction work. Heuermann was an architect. They both were married with children. They both lived really respectable lives, made good money. And other than this compartmentalized crime sprees that apparently Mr. Heuermann is capable of, they conducted themselves normally throughout the rest of their day. They were also very predatory in nature. You know, they planned these things. They lured certain people. All of the women and all of the men in both of these defendants, they all had a certain type. And so if you look at it, I mean, these are people who are not spree killers. They're not people who do it on the spur of the moment. Rather, they are very measured and methodical in what they did.
And knowing what you do about John Wayne Gacy in a case of a serial killer and the mental capacity of someone who is able to do that, there's an ego involved. Does someone like that want to take the stand on their own defense and explain, or do they remain quiet?
Well, they all want to take the stand because they think they're the smartest person in the room, that narcissism, antisocial behavior is very rampant in these kinds of people. But a good lawyer is going to tell that person that would be really a bad idea. And, you know, Gacy lodged an insanity defense, but of course that didn't go anywhere because he was hiding bodies. And when you know what you're doing is wrong, you can't use the insanity defense.
Wow, interesting. Karen Conti, as always, thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.